Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, so May 28th, 2025. It's bringing a whole flood of new comics, just a massive mix of brand new stuff and ongoing stories.
Yeah, it really is. It can feel like, a bit much to sort through sometimes.
Totally. And that's exactly why we're doing this deep dive.
Right, we're aiming to kind of cut through all that noise. We want to spotlight the releases that really jump out, pull out the key bits of info so
You
you can feel like you know what's going on without getting totally bogged down.
think of it as your cheat sheet for the week's interesting releases.
Exactly.
And we've picked out, well, quite a selection for today. We're going to look at the very strange Pinapocalypse, #3.
Oh, yeah?
Then there's the start of Mr. Terrific, Year 1, #1. Action with G.I. Joe, #7. A big anniversary for Giant Size X-Men, #1.
A classic.
Diving into Uncanny X-Men, #15. Some timey-wimey stuff in Venom Original Sin, #1. And wrapping up with Wolverine and Kitty Pryde, #2.
That's a packed list. Something for pretty much everyone, I think.
Definitely feels that way. Okay, let's dive in. First up, Pinapocalypse, #3. This one's premise is pretty wild.
Wild is a good word for it.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got these characters, they just escape zombies,
Right.
and then they follow some weird guy into a movie theater, and bam!
They're on a flying saucer.
Yeah, just like that. It's pure what on earth is happening kind of storytelling.
Yeah.
You just have to go with it.
Right. But interestingly, amid all that chaos, the main characters, Foxy and Roxy, they're actually trying to solve the mystery of who started the zombie outbreak.
Uh-huh. So there's still a plot thread pulling you through the craziness.
Exactly. Now, switching gears slightly, for anyone interested in the collecting side, one of the sources we looked at pointed out a specific cover. It's a 1 in 25 ratio incentive variant.
The ratio of variance.
Yeah, the artist is Sveta Shubina. And, the deal is shops get one of these for every 25 regular ones they order, so rarer.
Makes sense.
And there's some chatter that this one, specifically the cover art, might become kind of valuable later on, on the secondary market.
Right, where collectors buy and sell. It's interesting how sometimes the value is really just tied to that rarity in the art, almost separate from the story inside.
Totally. It's that dual nature of comics, isn't it? Story and collectible object all in one.
Uh-huh.
Okay, let's pivot completely. Mr. Terrific Year 1, #1. This is a new series, and it looks like it's really digging into his origin.
Yeah, it seems focused on Michael Holt's backstory. And it starts with, well, a real tragedy, losing his wife and unborn child in a car accident. It's heavy stuff.
Definitely. But the interesting part is how that loss kind of sets everything else in motion. He retreats, sells his company, Holt Industries.
Right, sells it to this Athena Prescott character, described as a mysterious and craven tech billionaire. And that somehow leads him down the path to becoming Mr. Terrific.
It's like this unexpected domino effect, how something terrible can weirdly spark something heroic later on.
Exactly. And it looks like the present-day story is tying back into that. He's researching Darkseid now, and there might be links between that research and his past.
Connecting the dots. And the creative team sounds great. Al Letson, he wrote for TV, like Monarch, Legacy of Monsters.
Oh, interesting.
And Valentine DeLandro on art, who did Black Manta, Bitch Planet. Really strong visuals there.
Yeah, that's a solid pairing. Letson's TV background could bring a certain kind of pacing and character work, and DeLandro's art is always compelling.
And since it's issue #1 of a new series, the recommendation seems to be just grab the main cover and jump in.
Makes sense. Especially with creators like that, you kind of expect a certain level of quality. The Darkseid connection also hints it might tie into bigger DC Universe stuff down the line.
Good point. Okay, let's shift to a name everyone knows. G.I. Joe. Issue #7, G.I. Joe #7 is making a pretty big noise.
Oh, yeah. What's the scoop?
Well, the big headline is first appearance of the iconic Beachhead, like really emphasizing it.
Wow, okay. That's huge for Joe fans. Beachhead's a classic character.
Totally. And then they immediately throw this question out. But is this really his last mission?
Ooh, dramatic tension right off the bat. So, introducing him and immediately putting him in jeopardy.
Seems like it. Setting up some high stakes, maybe a big turning point for him. They're positioning this issue as the start of a whole new G.I. Joe-y epic.
Interesting. So, potentially a really key issue for the series moving forward.
Looks that way. And on the cover front, the source mentioned the covers for this series have been generally good, but specifically flagged the 1 in 100 ratio incentive cover.
Ah, another one for the collectors. The higher ratio ones tend to get more attention.
Right. Potential secondary market value, again, purely because fewer exist.
Good to know if you're into that side of things.
Definitely. Okay, next up. A truly major milestone. Giant Size X-Men #1.
Right, the 50th anniversary of the original giant-size X-Men #1 from, what, 75? The one that changed everything for the X-Men.
Exactly that one. It's a huge deal in comics history. And they've got a stellar creative team on it. Adam Kubert, Jackson Lansing, and Colin Kelly.
That's some serious talent.
Yep.
So how are they tackling this anniversary?
With a really neat hook, actually. They're pulling Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, back in time.
Kamala, into the past.
Yeah. She gets to witness the actual formation of that legendary uncanny X-Men team: Cyclops, Storm, Wolverine, Colossus, Nightcrawler, Thunderbird, and their first encounter with Krakoa.
Wow, seeing that moment through her eyes, a modern mutant watching that iconic team come together, that's a fresh angle.
Isn't it? And of course, the big question is, could her being there actually change history? There are stakes for both the X-Men's past and, like, Kamala's own existence.
Classic time travel dilemma. Plus, I saw there's also a backup story in there.
Yeah, a revelation story introducing the X-Men that never was. That's by Al Ewing and Sarah Pacelli.
Ewing and Pacelli. Okay, this whole issue sounds packed.
It really does. And it's actually the first of 5 giant-size one-shots they're doing. So kind of launching a new mini-series of big, important stories.
Gotcha. And for covers.
The suggestion was maybe the spoiler variant, if you don't mind knowing a bit beforehand, or just the main cover.
Cool. All right, so from revisiting the past to a current mystery. Uncanny X-Men, #15. Sounds dark.
Yeah, the vibe seems pretty grim. The central question they're posing is, who will be the voice of darkness?
Ominous.
Definitely. And the plot sounds intense, too. The remaining outliers are trying to rescue a young mutant hostage from someplace called the Dark Artery.
Dark Artery. Doesn't sound pleasant.
No kidding. And apparently there's some ultimate terror blocking their way, and this voice of darkness thing is looking for a new host, bringing, violence and fear.
So multiple threats converging. Sounds like a really tough spot for the team.
Seems that way. Cover-wise, the source said they're all pretty decent, but specifically called out the 1 in 50 variant as being sick.
Sick isn't cool, I assume?
Yeah, like really striking or impressive art, probably matching that dark tone.
Makes sense.
Oh.
Okay, next. Venom Original Sin, #1. This one sounds like it could mess with your head a bit.
Yeah, the premise is pretty wild. You've got Eddie Brock, right? But now he's the King in Black, super powerful, cosmic entity kind of deal.
Right.
And he decides to travel back in time, specifically to when Peter Parker first had the symbiote suit,
Whoa, okay. Why is he doing that?
to fix some kind of mistake he made back then. But naturally, there's a big warning. Messing with the past is dangerous. One small change can make ripples that can destroy a world.
The butterfly effect, basically. Time travel 101. Don't mess things up.
Exactly. So Eddie's trying to fix something, but he might just make things worse. It sounds like his main goal becomes correcting his own actions in the past, which implies maybe his first attempt doesn't quite work out.
Intriguing. So it's a one-shot or starting something new.
It's described as a new one-shot series, so maybe more stories like this. And the covers are apparently gorgeous.
Nice.
But there's also this little mystery. Some character with a pumpkin head showing up on some covers.
A pumpkin head
Yeah.
with venom. Okay, that's unexpected.
Right. Definitely something to make you scratch your head and wonder what that's all about. Spark some speculation.
For sure. All right, last one on our list. Wolverine and Kitty Pryde #2. Reuniting a fan favorite duo.
Yep. And it sounds like they're facing something a bit different this time. A seemingly supernatural threat attacking Mariko Yoshida's home.
Supernatural. For Wolverine and Kitty.
That's what it says, and they're the ones defending it. The new bad guy is this ghostly snow samurai.
Snow Samurai.
Okay.
Ghostly. Okay, that does sound different from their usual mutant or ninja fights. And it says his appearance signifies changes.
Yeah, and there's also some mysterious artifact involved, connecting Wolverine, Mariko, and Kitty's destinies somehow.
Deepening their shared history.
And what's really cool for longtime fans is this is part of a story by Chris Claremont, legendary X-Men writer, filling in gaps from their past. It's like a previously untold tale.
Oh, wow. Claremont writing Wolverine and Kitty again. That's a major draw. Offers insights into how these characters we loved developed back then.
Exactly. And apparently Snow Samurai popped up briefly like a cameo in issue #1. So issue #2 here could be his first full appearance.
The first full appearance distinction. Important for collectors.
Right. So the recommendation is maybe the main cover or the 1 in 25 ratio variant because Snow Samurai is apparently on both of those.
Good tip. Captures that potentially key appearance.
So, yeah. Wrapping up this deep dive for May 28th, 2025, It's a really varied week, a lot of different flavors.
Absolutely. You've got total weirdness with Pin Apocalypse,
Mm.
deep origin story stuff with Mr. Terrific, classic action in G.I. Joe, historical significance with giant-size X-Men.
Shadowy threats and uncanny X-Men, time travel paradoxes in Venom, and that supernatural twist in Wolverine and Kitty Pryde.
Yeah, it really feels like there's something compelling no matter what kind of comics you're into.
For sure. And obviously this was just our curated selection. There are tons of other comics hitting the stands this week.
Right. Hopefully, something we talked about sparked your interest and you can use that as a jumping-off point to explore more.
Exactly. So maybe just one final thought to leave you with. Think about origin stories. Why are we so drawn to them? What is it about seeing those early moments, the tragedy, the discovery, the choice that defines these characters, heroes and villains, that we follow so closely?
Mhm. Or maybe think about the opposite established history. How fragile is it? What happens when someone like Eddie Brock, or maybe even Kamala Khan, potentially messes with it? Even a tiny change. What could the ripple effect be?
Lots to chew on there. Definitely something to think about when you're browsing the shelves.